Psychologists, therapists, counselors, etc. What are some things people tend to think are normal but should really be checked out? Inability to regulate your own emotions. Also, negative self-talk. We talk to ourselves way worse than any person could. Would an inability to identify most of your emotions count? Therapist, how do you feel? Me, oh, so we're starting with the complicated shit right off the bat? My therapist, if she's asked me how I'm feeling and I'm looking blank, will hand me a sheet of paper with the names of some emotions on it, and cartoon pictures for some of them, so I can peruse and pick out the ones I need. It's definitely one of the most helpful things anyone has ever done for me. I just text mine memes with the hashtag mood. I'm considering doing this. My therapist is cool, she'd get it. Legit used to do this with a client who had a hard time naming their emotions. They'd bring their phone into session and share memes with me until I could work with them to start identifying emotions that went with those memes. It's not a bad start, and often will take it if it gets you talking. You may insert the "you sly dog, you caught me monologuing" meme here. It might actually also be easier for me to bring things up or acknowledge stuff. I have a really hard time answering questions like "how are you" or "how was your week," but just sharing a meme and going "lol this me" at a picture of a sad-looking kitty is way easier. Is this the adult version of using a hand puppet to talk about your feelings? In some ways maybe? In other ways, I don't know. I've kind of noticed this trend where people from age 20 to 35 have a bit of difficulty naming their feelings, and largely that was because it wasn't taught to them. With the rise of internet culture, I'd almost wonder if humans are kind of falling back on the fact that we are often better at identifying the feelings of others, and through our empathy with the meme creators, we're able to try to understand ourselves. That's me more spitballing ideas than anything, but I guess it could be like the hand puppet. I wouldn't know because humans under the age of 12 require a special personality and training to work with, and my office said I'm not allowed to tell parents they are stupid, so I keep to working with adolescents and adults instead of children. XD. I'm curious how much procrastinating and/or lack of motivation to do stuff is normal, and how much isn't. From what my therapist told me, if you would simply rather be doing other stuff, that's perfectly normal, but if you absolutely could not bring yourself to do homework, there's something wrong. I used to have severe anxiety attacks about homework, to the point where when I needed to do it I'd either be completely drained and go to sleep, regardless of time of day, or have a huge breakdown. How did you break the pattern? Antidepressants and add medication TBH. I just recently started taking a low dose of ADHD medication, and the difference it makes in my ability to sit down and complete my assignments is literally night and day. Before I started the medication, I would have massive anxiety over just starting the assignment, then, that same level of anxiety would persist throughout the entire time I spent actually working on it. All my brain kept telling me to do the entire time was get up, move around, grind my teeth in frustration, or open a new tab and search through the new videos in my YouTube subscription feed. This is what I've felt my entire life, and now I realize that what I was feeling wasn't normal. That's how I've been feeling with school. I decided to take a break until I want to go back so that it'll do better next time. How would you go about talking to a therapist about this? I've never had one, and I get a lot of anxiety when thinking about talking to some stranger about my own problems. I know I should have motivation to do homework, but I'd literally wait until the last moment to do any of it and hate myself because I knew I could do better, but I just wouldn't. I couldn't bring myself to go to school, either. My boyfriend tried forcing me to go, but I ended up ugly crying because I didn't want to go at all. I actually enjoyed school, too, but I just couldn't do it. Thinking that 5 hours of sleep per night is okay. Rapid weight gain or loss with no obvious medical cause. Relationship problems, don't get me ducking started. Duck, if I go to sleep right now I'll get 5 hours. Go to sleep op. Research psychologist checking in. If your toddler is doing socially unusual behaviors such as not responding to name, not responding to a social smile, not pointing, using gestures, using your hands, arms as if they were a tool or extension of their body, engaging in repetitive behaviors, not responding to your use of gaze to direct their attention to distal objects, check with a pediatrician about getting assessed for autism spectrum disorder. I thought my daughter was deaf for a little while. I could stand behind her hollering her name and clapping my hands. She would be so hyper-focused on her blanket or Elmo she wouldn't react. Her speech was delayed. She is a toe walker. A litany of shit. I let my family tell me I was crazy and I just wanted something to be wrong with her, that there was nothing going on and she would grow out of it. Then the fits started happening. She was hitting her head on the wall, the floor, the cabinets. She was hurling herself off furniture. Screaming for hours. Her poor little head and face were covered in bruises. I was scared someone was going to call the law on me and have her taken. Someone in our parenting recommended contacting early intervention. My daughter has a sensory processing disorder. She's got a severe speech and learning delay. We are waiting to see a therapist that specializes in children so she can be evaluated. She's receiving a bunch of different therapies. I guess I typed all this out because you're so damn right. Don't ignore it. If you're a first-time parent, it might be hard to notice or accept. But if you feel like something is off, if your gut is telling you something isn't right, look for assistance. The longer you wait, the harder it is on your child and family. Edit. Shit. Thank you to the person that gave platinum and silver. Thank you. This is so hard. Sometimes parents are in denial and wait too long to get experts involved, for a variety of reasons. You're a good parent and your daughter is lucky to have you. People normalize abusive behaviors by loved ones all the time. Being able to identify your own personal boundaries and then enforce them with others for your own well-being is, unfortunately, not innate. What are some non-obvious abusive behaviors that people most commonly perceived as more reasonable than they are? When your partner downplays your interests and only encourages you towards things they think you should be interested in. When your partner constantly interrupts your flow of conversation and does all the talking, which soon amounts to all the decision-making. When your partner ignores or gives muted appreciation for the nice things you do but blows your mistakes and faults way out of proportion. When your partner draws on your deepest insecurities to win arguments. Not just partners, unfortunately. I started coming to grips that my parents were, indeed, abusers by reading up on partner abuse and realizing that they checked all the boxes, too. Therapist here. If you grew up with or currently are a part of a family where the whole family has to work to keep one or more members of the family in a good mood or appeased, that's not healthy. People are in charge of their own feelings. It is not your job to appease others so that they can emotionally regulate themselves. Shadow people. One question we asked was if they ever saw, heard or smelled anything others didn't. This came up more often than you might think. WTF is a shadow person that is one of the scariest combinations of two words I can imagine. For me personally, if I'm tired especially, my peripherals will pick out a body-esque shape or a limb that flits across my vision. It's only there for a fraction of a second, but it's still kind of unnerving when you think you see a silent torso ghost its way past a doorway. This happened to me a few times in my younger days, and when I didn't need much sleep to function, it scared the duck out of me. I kept telling my friends it was a ghost and it was following me. It didn't help that I had a small dog who'd bark at the stairs for no fucking reason in the middle of the night. Whenever that happened, I'd head right to my room and under my protection blanket. This happened to me a few times in my younger days, and when I didn't need much sleep to function, maybe you needed that sleep more than you realized. I didn't need much sleep to function, literally ducking, hallucinating like they've been up for days on meth. From the patient's side, it took having a massive anxiety attack at my doc's office to find out that no, massive anxiety attacks in front of strangers isn't common or normal. The attitudes of their parents. No, really. There are a lot of bad things that current parents do that are just seen as normal, when they're not. And they have long-lasting psychological effects from emotional damage. I'm still realizing how abusive my parents actually were years after moving out. It wasn't until I met my wonderful mother-in-law that I realized how shitty my narcissist mother actually is. Don't be afraid to reach out for counseling. Trauma doesn't have to be one big event, it can be 1,000 cuts. Just to add to your well-worded statement on the nature of trauma, trauma also doesn't have one set threshold for all of humanity. Person A can go through a certain situation and be fine, with no ill effects, while person B goes through the same event and never functions quite right ever again. This is so true. My brother still chuckles over how my dad hit us. I ended up with a pretty fun deck of anxiety disorders. Just because it seemed okay for you, doesn't mean it really was, and it definitely isn't okay for everyone. In some cases, humor is a coping mechanism. It could be that feeling the pain too deeply makes it too real, and making it a joke is the only way to resume daily life without succumbing. Or maybe it's a way of burying it. Not saying that's the case for him, I'm just putting it out there that Therese really no such thing as a proper reaction to trauma. I wish this were the case. He also has mentioned not getting to hit his kids until they're 3. I can only imagine he doesn't think it was a problem. I truly hope I'm wrong. I hope you're wrong too, for his kids' sakes. But unfortunately, that awful shit might have been normalized for him. Hess damaged in a very different way, one that I think is harder to correct because this kind of damage comes with a lot of self-righteousness.